Hello, welcome to the Counterattack playthrough series. We're going to be playing Beyond Valor. This is the first module in the Advanced Squad Leader system. I have dabbled in the Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit system, finally pulled the trigger on full ASL, so we'll see how that goes. The scenario I've selected is the Guards Counterattack. This doesn't actually come in the box of Beyond Valor. This is made available through the publisher's website, Multiman Publishing. It's a squad leader scenario that works with Beyond Valor. The main reason I chose it is because the scenario special rules down here, there's basically nothing. It just says the weather is moderate and there's no wind. Some of the scenarios that come in the box, they just have like a giant chunk of special rules here. I want to keep things simple. So this is going to be a Soviet attack. The game calls them Russians, but so I might interchange those terms, against the Germans. So let's set it up and figure out how to play this. Okay, here's the setup. The setup instructions indicated which forces go in which buildings. Some buildings have multiple locations, like this has 3 locations, so I tried to spread the guys out. Multi-location buildings tend to have multiple stories, so I even spread out in the vertical orientation, where you can see like there's a bunch of guys in here and it's a small section, so they're just like stacked on top of each other. This building here actually has 12 Russian squads and a leader. That's a lot of stuff. I could have spread them out vertically, but I chose to keep them all on the ground floor because I have something special in mind for them. Let's see, victory conditions. The Russians will win on one of 2 cases. Case 1, they take 2 or more buildings from the Germans. So the Germans start in 5 buildings, so they take 2 or more of them. For each building of theirs they lose to the Germans, they have to capture 1 more German building, if that makes sense. The other case is at the end of the game, 5 turns long, if there are 3 times as many Russian squads as German squads that are not broken, they win as well. Otherwise the Germans win. Okay, let's get cracking. If you do see any errors on my part, or just think there's better things I could have done, please comment. I'm learning this game and I'm making this video not only to help myself learn, but to help others, and so any comments you add will help that along. So this game is going to be 5 turns long, and within a turn of Advanced Squad Leader, there's a phase where one player does a bunch of actions and then it flips to the other player. So the player doing the actions will be called the attacker. So the Russians are going to start as the attacker. When they're done, the Germans will be the attacker. And once both have gone like that, then it's the next turn. And so we're starting with the Russians as the attacker. And during this part of their turn, there's a series of phases. So this game's all about the phases. There's going to be a rally phase, prep fire phase, movement phase, defensive fire phase, advancing fire phase, rout phase, advance phase, and melee phase. Sounds like a lot, but I think it kind of makes sense once you get going. The Russians are the attacker. We'll call that the Russian player turn. And the first phase is the rally phase. This is where you try to rally your troops that have been broken by battle. You can also exchange weapons or repair weapons and other things, but there's nothing I want to do. Nothing I want to do. And there's also things the defender, which would be the Germans right now, can do too, specifically rallying. But there's no one to rally. So we will move on to the next phase. That is the prep fire phase. The prep fire phase is where attacker units can fire on the defender. By doing so, they give up the ability to do a lot of things later in the turn. They can't move. They can't do advancing fire. So the idea is they are firing throughout this segment of the throughout the battle. Think of the battle, a turn in the battle is, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe less, maybe more. And so these guys are guys that are just be sitting there shooting away through that entire duration. And I think we're going to want to do something like that. First off, well, I should say what my strategy is. So I want all these guys here to just attack and take this building, and then theoretically they can pivot if there's enough of them alive and just kind of scoop around this way. So that'll be my main attack force. They're elite. We'll talk about what the numbers on them mean and stuff, but They're elite, so I want to try to make it easier for them to cross this street. They're going to have to cross the open street to get across to that building. So maybe I want to do some firing. So up here, I have a Russian squad. It's got 3 men. They are manning a medium machine gun, and they have a leader. The leader has a -1 on it. That means that's its leadership modifier. Minus is good. Everything in this game, small numbers good, big numbers bad. So in terms of like die rolling and stuff, and so that'll be a die roll modifier. So I want them to fire. So when you shoot, you have to have line of sight. So you know, these guys here could probably shoot over here if these guys cross the street. Obviously, these guys could shoot at them if they're crossing the street. So maybe I want to try to shoot someone over here. Now over here, there's a German leader with a squad and a light machine gun, so that'd be a good target to try to knock out before the Russian guys move across the street. But I don't know if I can hit them. So you have to be able to trace line of sight, and in this game, you're not allowed to trace line of sight, like literally trace it with like a string. For example, I have a thread here, and you trace from like center dot to center dot. For example, here's a dot here, here's a dot here. I hover right over the top. It's hard to see from the camera angle, but if that was right over the top, I would have line of sight. But you're not allowed to check line of sight until you fire. And so that means you might fire and not even be able to hit the unit, because if you trace line of sight, for example, you know, like here through a building, like the building stops the fire, so you wouldn't be able to trace through that. So I need to decide who I want to attempt to fire at, and even though that kind of looks like I could shoot him, I'm a little wary of that, but this is a more guaranteed hit, I think. So we're gonna do that one. So I have to have some firepower. That's first thing to be able to attack with. Well, on a squad, the leftmost number is their firepower. So this guy's a firepower of 4. That represents their weapons. Plus they're operating this machine gun, and they can fire it with them, you know, as they fire, or they can just have it not fire, or I can just fire the machine gun. But I think we're gonna combine them and fire both. So it'll be 4 plus 4 is 8. So that'll be our firepower. The leader has no firepower. We have to have range. So the range of a squad is the second number, 4. So 1, 2. So we have range. The range of the machine gun is 10, so it's definitely in range. Okay, so we have range. And then we have to have line of sight. So go ahead and trace it. And you know, you're supposed to do center dot to center dot, but this is pretty obvious that we have line of sight. There's nothing blocking it. Now, so we're good for that to take the shot. Now, you might be wondering, what is this thing? That is a sniper counter. It doesn't actually mean there's a sniper in that spot. There's another sniper counter for the Russians here. And those just represent abstractly the level of sniper activity on the battlefield. They don't represent like individual snipers. So there's no unit there. It's just, you'll see as things happen. So go ahead and stack these guys back up. We're going to make the attack. So we've identified we can make the attack in our prep fire attack. So what we're going to do is going to roll 2 dice and look them up on a chart. The column will be our firepower, so 8. And then the row on the chart will be our die roll. And then we have to modify our die roll by the terrain that we're firing into. So we're firing into a stone building. That's going to be a +3 modifier, so that's bad for the attacker. That's really tough. But we can subtract the leadership's modifier, -1, because the leader is directing the fire. Okay, so it'll be a net +2. So I'll go ahead and roll. I'm going to roll one white die and a colored die, and that's important. I'll explain in a minute. So I rolled a 5. Okay, so I'm not going to do this all the time, but I'll show you how we use the chart. Here's the chart. It's the infantry fire table. The game actually comes with a fancier one called the, I think, incremental infantry fire table, where there's a lot more numbers on it. There's also some nuances to how you use it, and I just didn't want to get into it, but it seems like the community prefers that. But I'm going to use this one for now. So let's zoom in on the firepower of 8. So just showing that over here it says firepower. This chart's also used for non-infantry, I guess, maybe. So here's our firepower, FP. So we come over here and we're looking at the first number here. So we have firepower of 8, cool. Now let's say our firepower is 9, that would fall between 8 and 12. We always have to take the smaller number. So we're at firepower 8, we rolled a 5, come down here to 5. Then we have adjust +3 for the stone building, 1, 2, 3, -1 for the leadership, 1. So that is a 1 MC. That's a morale check with a +1 to the die roll. So let's go check out what that means. So it basically means the fire into this location was effective. And now we have to see what these guys do. So by the way, I didn't really explain this, but the guys with machine guns, if the machine gun is on top of them, this is a light machine gun, it means they're carrying it. If it's underneath them, it means it's just on the ground. But they're carrying a light machine gun. So this squad has to take a morale check to see if they can withstand this kind of attack. They're not going to die necessarily, but they might break from the stress of it. So your third number on a squad is their morale, 7. So with a morale check +1, we have to roll less than or equal to their morale, but add +1 to the die roll. Now I'm going to keep these dice here because there's something special about that colored die. So I'll roll these dice. Looking for 7 or less. So we got an 8. 8 + 1 is 9. That is greater than the morale. So they break. So we flip them to their broken side. Now you can see perhaps that they don't look too happy in their silhouette. They're no longer standing. They're just sort of strewn about. One guy's crawling, weapon thrown on the ground. So they're just not happy. Notice their morale is the only number on the counter. So their morale is 7. They have no firepower or range anymore because they can't shoot. So they just broke. They still hold onto their light machine gun. And as soon as you break, you become desperate. So DM means desperation morale. So later we can try to rally these guys to get them back into shape. But we're gonna have a +4 penalty when we try to do that. That's because right after breaking, I guess you're less likely to be able to rally. Okay, so we did that. Now, we then would normally place a prep fire marker on these units to indicate that they cannot fire again. Because they've done prep fire. They spent the entire turn firing. However, my colored die roll, I rolled a 2. That's special. So you always roll 2 colored die when you're doing attacks because certain weapons have a high rate of fire. For example, this machine gun in this square, there's a 2. That's its rate of fire. If the colored die roll is less than or equal to your rate of fire, you did not need to spend the entire turn firing at that target. That means you can spend some more time during the turn firing at other targets. So we'll go ahead and put the prep fire just on the infantry. Keeps the machine gun on top of the prep fire because it can fire again. Now the infantry are manning it, but let's just say there's 1 or 2 guys of that entire squad operating the gun, right? So they can still fire again, and then the leader doesn't fire, so he's fine. Okay, so that was a good attack. We knocked these guys out so that they can't shoot at anyone, and we still have our machine gun capable of firing. And another thing we have to do is that our machine gun fired in this direction. Now these medium and heavy machine guns, they're very difficult to move around, I guess. So we need to mark the direction it was firing. This is its covered arc. So we did that. You cannot fire into a different arc more than once in the same phase. So this is the prep fire phase. So in the movement phase, if it was gonna fire again, it can't, but if it could, it would be able to shift its covered arc. But for this phase, the prep fire phase, it's going to be stuck in this direction. There is an opportunity later in the turn for it to fire, I believe, but I think we might as well keep firing because the next phase is going to be the movement phase. So what do we want to fire at? So, and also what's the covered arc? So the covered arc is, in this case, straight along these hexes. So we can fire in that direction again. Also the hexes to the left and right of it. So sort of this cone, kind of like this. And if it was pointing along a hex spine, the cone would come along these sides here. So anyway, it's going like this. So it still has a decent arc. This rule is only true if you're inside some dense terrain like a building or woods. So his next target, it certainly could fire at this guy here, but this guy can't see over here, it looks like. So, maybe a little bit, hard to say. But maybe he'll just shift a little and fire at this guy. So it's covered arc. It's this hex and along this row, and this row, and this whole area. So this guy looks to be in line of sight. I'm going to trace line of sight. I'm above it, tracing it. It doesn't cross any buildings other than the target building. Now, from your point of view, it doesn't look like it's going straight down the hex spine. You see the hex spines sort of offset from the thread, but from above, it's going straight along this hex spine, as you can imagine. So that is in range. So the firepower, if you remember on the machine gun, we're just firing the machine gun, is 4. And we have a -1 leadership modifier, and it's also a stone building. So we'll go ahead and roll again. Rolled an 8. And remember, our rate of fire was 2. We did not get it this time. Let's go ahead and check out what this looks like. So we find the 4 column for the machine gun, 8. Oh, this isn't going to be good, right? -1 for the leadership, and then +3, so no effect. And it lost its rate of fire because it rolled a 5. Can't fire anymore, so we might as well remove its covered arc. And go ahead and place all these guys under prep fire, because they're not going to be able to fire anymore. Okay, successfully did our first attack. Okay, what else do we want to do during the prep fire phase? I think I want to do one other thing. So, let's just say these Russians wanted to shoot at these Germans down here. Well, each one individually, so there's 4 squads, 2 on the upper floor, 2 on the ground floor. They could individually fire, let's say, at this guy here. And they would be firing individually at 4 firepower. But squads that are stacked together in the same location can combine into a fire group. Now there's no one in this guy's same location because he's on the upper floor and the other guy's on the lower floor, but let's just say they're like this together on the lower floor. They can combine into a fire group of 8. So some of your attack choices involve like, oh, do I want lots of little weak attacks or fewer really big attacks by making fire groups? And you can also make fire groups from adjacent locations. So these 2 guys, they're adjacent to each other. You know they're adjacent because theoretically they can move from one spot to the other. They can form a fire group of 8. And I believe it's true that you are vertically adjacent as well. So ground floor and first floor are adjacent. Same thing here. So they can all form fire groups. There's a stairwell here. Stairwells are square. So this guy traces up the stairwell to this guy to be adjacent to this guy, and this guy over to here. So we can make a fire group. But do I want to fire right now? I could, but it doesn't really affect the battle too much, I don't think. I kind of want to see what's going to go down. It's hard to say. So what I could do is fire right now, or I can choose to wait and see what happens. By doing that, I can mark all these guys with a bounding fire marker. And I'm not sure why the name difference, but this is called setting up for opportunity fire. That means in the later phase, it would be the advancing fire phase. They could fire at these guys at full firepower. In the advancing fire phase, you only fire at half firepower. So by saying, oh, we're going to wait and hold our fire until that later phase, we can see what happens and then fire at full firepower. I'm only mentioning this just because it's a choice now, but why would I do this? I'm not so sure, because these guys are going to get a chance to fire at some point. And so they could fire at them and sort of ruin their chances to fire. So I think we're going to do this instead. We are going to prep fire them. And as an example, I'm going to have them all fire as one big fire group to try to knock this stack out. Now, unfortunately, the Germans, or fortunately for the Germans, they spread out vertically. So I can't kill a bunch of guys in one big shot. But right here, there's a heavy or a medium machine gun. So that'd be good to take out. And a squad and a leader. So they're going to combine all their attacks. That'll be 16 into here. It's going to be +3 for the building. There's no leader stacked with them. When you form a fire group, you can only use leadership modifiers if there's a leader with a modifier in every location. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. We rolled a 4. Now the color die doesn't matter when there's no machine gun. Or I'm sorry, we rolled a 6. So go check it out. Here's the 16 column. We rolled a 6. 1, 2, 3 for the stone building. That's a 1 MC. Okay, so these guys are gonna have a morale check. So here's a stack of things, right? We got a leader, medium machine gun carried by a squad. So when you do morale checks, you need to start with the leader. Leaders are important in this game in many ways. So the leader's morale is 8. So we're gonna roll some dice. Now something special happened in this attack, kind of like the rate of fire special roll. So I'll tell you about that in a second. We'll just keep those dice there, and I'll use these other dice. We're looking to roll less than or equal to 8 for this leader to survive. He cannot use his leadership modifier on himself. You can't inspire yourself. And we're gonna have a +1 for the tough morale check, okay? So we got a 6. And +1 would be 7. That is less than his morale, so he is fine. This 6 is also a special combo, so we're going to remember that. Now I'm out of dice, so we'll just remember we rolled 2 6s. The Germans rolled a 6, and then the Russians rolled a 6, and then the Germans rolled a 6. We'll talk about that in a minute. So now this guy is going to have to do his morale check as well. Now he's not an 8, he's a 7. But since his leader is still good, the leader can inspire him to try to talk him through this attack. So he gets a -1. That cancels out the +1. So it's going to be a straight. He needs a 7 or less. Okay, you got a 9. So 9 is greater than his morale. He breaks. Let's go ahead and flip him. Throw some desperation morale on him. Restack this stuff. Kind of a mess here. Clean it up in a little bit. Okay, now let me put this back to a 6 to remind myself we had 2 6s rolled. Let's process the first 6. So that was the 6 rolled when the Russians fired on the Germans. If I looked at the scenario instructions, there's a sniper activation number for each force. And both forces, that's set to 6. So that means when doing rolls, almost every roll you do, if you roll your sniper activation number of the enemy, their sniper might activate. So the Russians were firing so we go see if the German sniper activates. So I'll go ahead and roll. We're looking for a 1 or a 2. Okay, we got a 6, so they do not activate. Okay, and then the later, as resolving that attack, the Germans rolled a 6. That activates the Russian sniper. Looking for a 1 or a 2. We got a 3. So nothing. I was hoping something would happen, but it didn't. Okay, I think that's all I want to do for the prep fire phase, because I think these guys are kind of out of action back here, so I'm going to move them during the movement phase, I'd say. And then these guys are going to do a special attack against this building. So yeah, prep fire phase is over. And might as well get prepped for the movement phase by zooming in on these guys who I want to move. Okay. Okay, so during the movement phase, the attacker can move. They can move individual units one at a time, and they have movement factors available. It's not printed on them. All squads have a base movement factor value of 4, and then leaders have a factor of 6. You can actually move stacks, so they can move together. You know, you're asking to be destroyed when you do that, but you can do that. And leaders, if traveling with a stack, can give their extra 2 movement points to the whole stack, so they can help units move quickly. While you're moving, the enemy can fire on you, and they have several sort of degrading types of firing. Basically, they get a free, full shot, kind of like a prep fire shot, and then after that, they can take more shots, but they're limited to what they can do, and so on. So we'll see that. But unfortunately, in this scenario, and because I'm silly and just need to try these rules, I'm going to do the most complicated form of movement possible. I believe, and that is a human wave. So there's only a few nationalities in the rules that are allowed to do human wave attacks, essentially, and the Russians are one of them. So basically, in addition to being able to move individual units or stacks, I can move an entire set of contiguous units as if they are one unit. So that'll be this blob. They have to be adjacent to each other. They are. Okay, so we're going to declare a human wave. So let me just throw this down here. Now, why would I want to do this? Well, maybe a veteran would not do this, but a few things. They get 8 movement factors instead of 4. Well, that's huge. So that should be more than enough to get into that building down there. They can also move right into the enemy locations. When you're moving in the movement phase, you can't do that normally. So this is one of the rare ways that you can move straight into an enemy location, engage in hand-to-hand combat, basically. Their morale level is +1, so they're already at 8, which is pretty high. These are some elite, E for elite Russian forces, so they're going to go up to 9. 10's the max. They also cannot pin. Pinning happens when you're being fired at. You can be pinned, and that basically makes it so you can't move anymore. So they're immune to pinning. So this, I feel, is increasing their chances of getting across that road. They also do not take part in heat of battle. That's basically a set of rules that allow basically heroics to occur, or not, or cowardice, I suppose, to happen due to firing. So while they're in this wave, they're just this big herd of people running, so no one's going to stand out above anyone else. They're just running for their lives across the road. So that's what we're going to do. Now this is a bit complicated, so take it step by step here. When you're declaring a human wave, you say who's going to do it, and you have to pick a target hex unit. A target unit in a hex. I'm going to pick this guy. So the wave is going to kind of focus on that location as its target, but you know, it's got guys adjacent to each other, so theoretically this whole wave would get into this building. So we also have to pick a hex grain or an alternate hex grain, so as the direction of the wave. So let me give you an example of a hex grain. So going with the grain of the hexes, like, you know, hex side, hex side, hex side, hex side, we could pick a direction like that. And here I'll, just to make things easier, saw this in the rules, like you can do something like this just to make it clear. Like this could be the direction of the human wave. So all these guys would be moving this way. However, the target hex needs to be in your hex grain, so that's a bad choice. So let's do this. So this is a hex grain. So that means the wave would go like this, like straight down here. And so this path is sort of like the default plan for the wave, and you can't deviate from it by more than 1 hex. So when the wave starts, like these guys would all be moving forward, and they're fine. These would be 1 hex away from this column of hexes. These guys are 2 hexes away, so on their move they would have to try to move in closer. Okay, but I could also do an alternate hex grain. That's where you're kind of doing a diagonal against the grain, so it'd be like I guess right, left, that kind of thing. And I think that might be what I want to do, because we're kind of going at an angle anyway, like this. So I think I can do something like this. So we'll say like, this is the, you know, going right, and then I want to go left, right, left. So is this, so I go, something like that. Does that make sense? Yes, I think it does. So kind of snaking like this. And so that means when this guy goes like, this guy can go here and he'll still be adjacent. If he goes here, he would now be more than 1 hex away. So on his next move, he'd have to try to get closer. And then these guys, I think, will all be there. So I think that gets him in. I'm hoping that is clear. We'll see how it goes. I guess technically maybe I should put this arrow like this, because it snakes left, it goes left, right, left. Or right, left, right, left, right. Okay, I think that's a little more precise. Now we're going to move all these guys at once. Now, like I said, normally you move 1 unit at a time, space, 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 and they can be fired at as they're moving, or a stack. Well, we're thinking of this as 1 giant unit spread across many hexes. So they get to all move, and then, you know, the entire mess of them, and then the defender can react rather than reacting as each unit moves. So this guy's going to expend, it's 1 movement point to go into clear, so he's going to spend 1 movement point to go into clear. This guy's going to spend 1 movement point to go into clear, 1 to go into clear. Note these guys are on the little snaky path. This guy's 1 off. This guy is adjacent to it, but he's just going to move forward. It costs 2 movement points to go from a stone building into another room of a stone building. So we just spent 2 movement points of our 8 for this human wave. I'm going to put a die off to the side to remind myself that I've spent 2 movement points. So that's our first impulse of the wave. We still have 6 movement points left, but now the defenders have an opportunity to react. By the way, when I said it cost 2 movement points for the wave, we have to take the most expensive move of all the units. So these 3 did 1 move, but this guy did 2. Okay, so defensive fire is going to happen. So the Russians ruined some of this because I had this light machine gun here ready to shoot this way, but it's broken. Okay, so we're not left with much to defend against. This is probably a bad setup on my part, but so maybe the human wave's good in this scenario. Okay, so these guys are like right about to be overrun, right? So they need to fire like crazy. So basically you can take 1 shot at an enemy per movement point expended. So these guys spent 1 movement point to get in there. This guy spent 2. I'm not sure what that means in terms of firing defensively. Do I get to take 1 shot against these guys and 2 shots against him, or does the whole wave count as 2 because of the minimum move? I'm gonna have to look that up. The rules say all human wave units expend the same amount of movement factors as the one that spent the most. So they all spent 2 movement factors. So that's much better for the Germans. In fact, if I was smart, I probably would not have moved this guy. I probably should have just kept him back because he's making it easier for the Germans to shoot at these guys because they get to fire defensively 1 shot per movement factor. Okay, so I think we're going to start with this leader here. Is that who I want? You know, maybe we'll start with some other guys. We'll start with this guy over on the end. So I could actually form a fire group, a big fire group, and just try to obliterate one of these stacks. But there's so many of these guys, I'm really nervous about what's going to happen here. So I think we're going to have this guy. Yeah, this is just going to be horrible no matter what. So maybe these 2 guys will form a fire group. It'll be 8 fire factors against an adjacent target. So when your target is adjacent, you can double your firepower. So that would be a 16 attack. Yeah, I think that's what I want. Okay, so we'll go ahead and roll. We rolled a 6, so that's going to activate or potentially activate the Russian sniper. And go see what is happening. So they're 16. They rolled a 6. Okay. It's a few things though. When units are moving in the movement phase and they're fired upon, there's 2 modifiers the defender could potentially get. One is if they're moving in the open, they get a -1 modifier. Well, these guys are in the open. There's no terrain protecting them. They're in the street. So there's a -1. Then there's a form of movement called assault movement. That's when basically you just move 1 space and like your guys are just being careful as they're walking up on a target. So you can, if you're not using assault movement, which these guys aren't, they're just running crazy across the street, it's another -1. So we're gonna have to see what K/3 means, because I do not know what it means. K means someone's gonna have casualty reduction. And then 3 means everyone else is gonna take a morale check +3. So this is gonna be devastating for these guys. Now these guys are all identical. We need to randomly pick one to take the casualty reduction, and normally that wouldn't matter, but you can get ties when you're doing random selection in this game. So we're going to roll 3 dice, 1 for each guy, and basically whichever guy gets the highest die roll is going to take a casualty. And it doesn't matter which. However, if I roll doubles or triples, that could be either 2 or 3 guys will take casualties. So I'm going to roll 3 dice. So I got a 1, and a 4. So the highest die roll is a 4, so that means only 1 is going to take casualties. But if I rolled a 4, 4, and a 1, 2 would take casualties. So it doesn't matter which one here. But so we'll flip him over. Wait, we're going to reduce him, I should say. He's taking casualties, so he's a 628, so he's probably going to drop to like a 3 something. So this 628, you can see he has a elite symbol in the upper right corner. It's just an E not inside a box. Well, I go find a half squad with the same E symbol. There's no box around it because there's several kinds of elites, so that's how you kind of differentiate them. So there's another E, so he's 328. And notice a half squad only has 2 silhouettes on it. So so one was casualty reduced, then everybody, including the guy that was casualty reduced, have to take a +3 morale check. Now remember, I did roll a sniper activation. I think it was a Soviet sniper activation. So we're going to have to process that, but after all this is done. Morale check for this top guy. So his morale is 8, but he is in a human wave, so it goes up to 9. So we have to roll 9 or less +3. So got a 10 +3 is 13. That is greater than 9. Now, since this squad failed its morale check by quite a bit, we need to see if it exceeds the experience level rating of the Soviet forces. So looking on the scenario card, I see their experience level rating is 3, the Germans is 4. So this morale check failure was greater than the experience level rating, which means this unit needs to degrade in quality. Maybe that's because they're just so rattled they're not going to be as effective, or they have some wounded men to take care of, or a key leader died. So we need to replace it, and we have to go find another half squad that is 1 level lower than elite. That would be first line. So we're going to look for a unit with a 1, and then none of these numbers can increase on the new unit, and at least 1 must decrease. So I found one. So we're going to go from a 328 to a 227. You can see there's a 1 in the upper right hand corner, meaning we're no longer considered elite. Okay. And then finally, this guy breaks. So throw some desperation on there. Just set him off to the side for a second because we're going to process these guys as well. So we're doing a 3 morale check on this guy. He also has 9 morale. We rolled a 9, but that goes up to a 12. So he breaks, but 12 just makes it so he doesn't degrade in quality. So he breaks. And then finally the third guy. Okay, we rolled an 8, still fails. So this whole stack is broken now. And they lost some men and 1 unit degraded in quality. Okay, we're almost done with this one fire. Now, since these units fired, they get marked with a first fire marker. So that's to differentiate it from other kinds of fire that can happen during the defensive fire phase. So when you first fire, you fire at full strength, which we did. Then later they can do subsequent first fire, which is they can do the same kind of shot, kind of like in first fire, except they can't fire at any one greater distance than who they first fired at, and also they fire at half firepower. So but we did that. Okay. So the enemy spent 2 movement points to get into here. So theoretically, these guys could fire either subsequent first fire shot as well, because you can fire 1 shot per movement point expended. They couldn't subsequent first fire at these guys back here because they're a greater distance than the people they first fired at. But before I even make that choice, I think we should process the Soviet sniper that was triggered by the attack. Going to roll a die. We're looking for a 1 or a 2. Okay, we got a 2. So we got to find the Soviet sniper right here. We're going to roll 2 dice. The colored one is going to be, we'll call that the distance. So we're going to roll for the direction and distance the sniper attack happens. So I rolled direction 1, distance 4. So you can see printed on the sniper, there's direction numbers. So we got a 1. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, no, it was 1, 2, 3. Oh, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. So this is the target hex for the sniper. There's no one in the hex though. So what happens next is it moves to the closest hex with a target. If the hexes are equidistant, there's some rules for how you pick it, but there's one closest hex with a target. That is the enemy sniper, or an enemy sniper. So the Soviet sniper is attacking the German sniper. So we check out the sniper attack chart. We had rolled a 2 instead of a 1. And what's going to happen is it's going to pin the sniper. Let's see, yeah, it's going to pin the sniper. So what you do is you flip it over to its pinned side. It doesn't say pinned, it just says no attack on it right there. These numbers are for when, if he had attacked like actual like squad, the squad could try to attack the sniper back. But so it's pinned. So that now it cannot move or attack for the rest of the turn, the player turn. Okay, so we got that. Okay, successful counter sniper attack. Now let's come back to our battle here. We fired 16 firepower points into this location. So we need to mark like how much firepower is going through that location. So, you know, the turn is modeling a lot of things that would be happening simultaneously in real life. So one aspect of modeling that is we're going to record how much firepower is flowing through that hex. So if someone else moves into that hex, they could potentially be harmed by that one attack we just did. Think of it as these guys are firing over the course of a 5-minute turn into this location, and multiple units might move through there, and even though they're not the primary target of the attack, they could still be wounded. So this is called residual firepower in the game, and you always cut it in half from the original firepower. So there's 8 residual firepower in that location. Now the question is, do these guys want to do their second allowed attack? Because the human wave spent 2 movement points, they can make 2 shots. I think they're going to wait because they broke this entire stack, and presumably more stacks are going to move adjacent to them. So I think they are going to wait. So we're still processing like the little tiny move of this one human wave because other units that haven't fired have a chance to fire now. Now the only one I see that looks like a contender though is this stack here, which was the leader, light machine gun, and a squad. So it's a tough call who they should attack. Now this location here has 3 units plus a 10-2 leader. This one has just 3 units. 10-2 leader, it's going to give -2 to the morale rolls of the units here. So it's going to be slightly harder to disrupt, I guess. So I think we're going to attack this guy with point blank fire. So we have 4 firepower with that unit. The machine gun is going to be used as well, so it'll be 7 firepower with a -1 modifier. Also -1 for these guys being in the open, and -1 for not using assault movement. So that's a -3. Let's go ahead and roll. Rolled a 6, so sniper activation number. But the German sniper, oh wait, no, that is the Russian sniper because this is a German firing. So the Russian sniper is going to activate once we resolve this. So I have to remember that. We rolled a 6 on the 7 column. Well, there is no 7 column, so we go to the 6 column. -3 is a K2. So that's a randomly selected unit is going to be reduced. And then they're going to make a +2 morale check. So there's 3 units there. They're all identical. So we'll roll 3 dice. Now, just so you know, when they attacked, their colored die was a 5. The machine gun's rate of fire is only a 1, so it lost its rate of fire. So we'll go ahead and roll these 3 and highest number. We're just making sure there's no doubles or triples, but whatever if there's the high number is going to knock a unit down. And let's see what we got here. So we got all different numbers, so that just means 1 unit is reduced. So I need to convert one of these squads to a half squad. Okay, now they're all going to undergo a +2 morale check. We'll start with the half squad. Okay, rolled a 7. +2 is 9. Their morale is 9. So that would be a pass, normally. If you roll exactly your morale, though, you become pinned. And so they would be pinned and stuck in the street. However, human wave attacks, pins are not applicable. So the half squad survived. Okay, now for the next. And by the way, their morale is 9 because of the human wave morale level bonus. So the next squad, full squad, okay, we've got a 3. So they made it. And then the third squad. Oh, another 3. So, wow. So the Germans killed some guys, but they are still coming. Germans are marked first fire. They did 7 firepower strength of attack into there. Cut in half, that's 3.5, rounded down to 3. The next closest marker for fire is 2, though. There's no 3. Yeah. So we have that. Now they could decide to subsequent first fire, but we need to process that Soviet sniper attack first. 2. We got a 3. Okay. So, do the Germans want to do subsequent first fire? I think the answer is yes. Now what's interesting is that I don't think they have to pick the same exact target because this guy is equidistant. So going to this decision, I might want to try to attack this group, even though there's a leader in there. Just try to wound them, or I can try to stop this group from, try to wound this group even more, so that I only have like 1 group left. One special rule about this residual firepower, normally it attacks whoever moves into the location, but with the human wave, it also attacks who exits the location. So it's going to be that much more deadly. So even if I don't shoot at these guys again, they will get attacked by a 2 if they leave this location. So the question is, what do I want to do? I think I am going to attack this and try to, at a minimum, get some residual firepower in there, but hopefully harm them. So let's see what's going on here. So we would be attacking at half firepower because this is our subsequent first fire. So first fire is full firepower, subsequent first fire is at half firepower, must be at a unit of equal or closer distance. It is. So it's going to be a 2, but it's point blank range. So doubled to a 4. Ugh. I messed up there. I never doubled that. So before we do that, let me just back this off a second. Let's correct that, because I think I attacked with a 7 and it should have been 14. For reviewing what went down, there's one change here, which is this half squad would have broken because it was a +3 morale check and he just barely made his morale check, right? So he's breaking. Okay, the other guys rolled so low on their morale checks, they made it. Okay. Glad I caught that. Okay, and then half of 14 is 7, so the next closest value is actually a 6, so that's good too. So, okay. So that makes my decision to attack here even better. Okay, so let's go back here. So these guys are going to attack at It's 7 cut in half. Oh, by the way, I need to decide if I want to use the machine gun. But let's just say I'm going to, it would be 7 cut in half. It's 3.5, rounded down to 3. So it would be a 3 firepower attack. Why might I not want to use the machine gun? Why wouldn't I just always use it? Well, machine guns can break. It's broken side. They can malfunction. And if it doesn't say anything otherwise, they malfunction on a die roll of 12. But if you overuse a machine gun, it will break on a 10, or 2 levels lower anyway. So if it's normally would break on a 12, it would break on a 10. So I'm more likely to break my machine gun by conducting sustained fire, as it's called. So I fired for a lot during first fire, but I'm now like firing even more as part of this second fire. But I'm going to do it because I need to knock this wave down. So we're going to fire at 3. And if I roll a 10, though, that machine gun breaks. By the way, if the machine gun had made its rate of fire, this wouldn't be sustained fire necessarily. I might be wrong there, but if that scenario comes up, we'll figure it out. So we rolled a 7. I'm looking it up on the chart. So we're firing on the 3 column. Well, there's only a 2 column. Rolled a 7. It's -2 for the guys being in the open, not using assault movement. -1 for the leadership. So that's a 1 MC. So we will go ahead and process these guys in order again. So let's dig through here. So the leader goes first, and he doesn't lead himself, so he just needs to roll 10 or less. Actually, human wave morale level is +1, but you can't have a morale greater than 10, so it's just a 10. Okay, he rolled a 3. 3 plus 1 for the morale check is 4. He's good. So now for the 8, the top 8 there. 8 level morale, I should say. It's going to have a -2 because of the leadership. Okay, rolled a 12. So -2 would make it a 10. +1 for the morale check would be 11. So it would break but not be degraded. But we rolled a 12. I think that's something special. Yes. So if you roll an original 12, regardless of the modified morale, it suffers casualty reduction. So I'm going to have to dig out a lower, or a half squad and flip it over. Now if the roll was greater than 3 above the morale needed, the roll needed, they would have also reduced in quality, but that didn't happen. Okay, so next guy is morale of 9, rolled a 5, +1, -2, they're good. Next guys rolled a 3, so they're good. Okay, so still have 2 squads left, getting a little packed in here. Whoops. Who knows if this is going to work out? Okay, so that was a that was 7 divided by 2 is 3.5, rounded down to 3. Column was a 2. Half of 2 is a 1. So that left 1 residual firepower. Yes. Okay, now these guys flip from first fire to final fire because they've used their subsequent first fire. Now, the rules for someone in final fire state is they can't shoot at anyone unless they move adjacent to them. So they're basically done right now since everyone's adjacent to them right now. Now, let's see, is there anyone else I can fire? Doesn't look like it, so we're going to start the second impulse of this human wave. This is a complicated maneuver. Like normally you wouldn't spend so much time on a single move. Okay, so the human wave is going to continue moving. Now there is some rules about how they can move. If there's anyone in the forward location, which basically for this unit, it would be like this. If there's any enemy units, you must move into them unless someone's already there. So unless a friendly's already there. So I think we'll move this guy out and into this enemy location. Again, this is something you normally cannot do, but a human wave allows you to do, is move right into an enemy location. As they're doing it though, they're going to undergo a 1 firepower attack with -1/-1 for moving in the open and not using assault movement. So it was a 5. A 5 on a 1 firepower attack, -1/-1. That's a 1 MC. Whew. Okay, so we'll do the, let's unravel this a little bit. So they might actually be stuck in their hex. Normally you are not attacked by residual firepower as you leave. This is just for human wave. So the leader first, rolled a 5, well under the limit needed. Now one of the 8s rolled a 6. That's going to be a German sniper activation, but he's pinned. And that's successful. Next guy, an 8. 8 -2 from the leader is 6, +1 for the morale check is 7. So he's fine as well. Okay, so they made it in. That's one reason I picked them to go in is, well, there's only a little bit of residual firepower and there's a leader. Okay, so he spent 2 movement points to move in. Now the other guys, what's going on here? Well, these guys are going to try to exit. There's 6 firepower coming at them. And they're going to try to go here. If no one went in here, they would have had to go there, but someone already absorbed that. Note my path goes like this. So they are moving into a location that is 1 space away from the path that was chosen. So I'm going to flip this over to remind myself that I'm basically hit the range limit of these units. They need to move back towards that path somehow, which is good. So they'll move into here on their next impulse if they can survive. Okay, so the 6 firepower attack on these guys. Notice the routed guys stay in place. Top guy. Oh, actually, no, we're just rolling on the 6 column. It's -2, rolled an 8. 8 -2 is a 1 MC. So the top guy is rolling. He rolled a 5, +1 is 6. He's good. Bottom guy rolled a 10, +1 is 11. He breaks. And I showed them moving out of the hex, but they break inside the hex that they're leaving. So he breaks. So that's the benefit of throwing down that residual firepower. Okay, so this guy made it. And he is out of range. Out of range of where he should be on the human wave. Okay, this one's going to be awful. Oh, they're all broken, so they're not going to leave. But we got these guys. So they need to move in the forward direction according to the rules and the direction of this. This is a forward direction, and this is a forward direction. They could move sideways if there are enemy units there. These would be sideways. They can't go back. So this looks like the best place to move to. Except I'm a little nervous about going there because it's hard to say if the Germans can see there. I don't think so because this building here sticks out just enough. I bet they can't be hit. In fact, I'm probably cheating just looking at it carefully like that, but I don't. I guess not. I don't think these guys can hit. I mean, they'd be straight through these center dots. Anyway, so I think this is the best choice for moving forward. So I'll cruise out to here. And that's their second impulse. But there's now more defensive fire potential. So this unit can subsequent first fire against this guy. It's as close as any other unit near it. This guy cannot because there are units closer than this unit. And I actually misspoke earlier. I think I said you can only fire subsequent first fire on a unit that is as close or closer as the unit you first fired on. That would require you to memorize like every unit you fired on for first fire. So that didn't make sense, and I looked it up, and it doesn't. So basically, you just can't fire on someone farther than the closest unit to you. So this guy cannot fire on this guy. So this guy will have to make do and open up. So subsequent first fire is half firepower, so that'll be a 2, doubled again, or back to 4, for being point blank fire. And then we get a -2 for the human wave units moving in the open without using assault fire. Got a 7. So I'm looking up 7 on the 4 column, 1, 2, subtracting 2 from the die roll. That's a 1 MC, so 1 morale check, or morale check with a +1. So let's remind ourselves what these guys look like, just all the same guys. So morale check for the top guy. Rolled a 6, that's going to activate a sniper, a German sniper, but the German sniper is pinned. And that passes. Next guy. Another 6. Oh, lucky they took that sniper out. And third guy. 11. Okay, so his morale is 9. Yep, he breaks. Oh, and it's actually 12 because we're adding +1. It was a 1 MC. That's not enough to reduce its quality, but certainly enough to break it. So these guys convert to final fire. Now, 2 movement points were used to move into this location. So these guys could fire again using final protective fire. Now that's an act of desperation. That's the third kind of fire. It can only be done against units moving adjacent. Basically, it's very similar to subsequent first fire, except the die roll used to do the attack is also used as a morale check on these guys, because they're basically right about to be overrun. So I guess if they roll low, they pass their morale check and harmed the guys trying to get into the building. If they roll high, well, they missed them, and so they're panicking because they're right about to enter. The question is, what should I do? I feel like they need to try to kill these guys. So we're going to attack them again using subsequent first fire. Final protective fire. Okay, rolled a 7. It's the most likely roll. 7 on a 4, -2, that's a 1 MC. Also a 7 on the morale check pins them. Because it was exactly their morale. Pinning reduces their firepower to half. That's fine though. They can't move and they can't advance. Okay, no big deal. So let's do the morale checks on these guys. As 1 MC, we'll do top guy first. Got a 10. It's actually an 11 with the 1 MC. So that breaks this guy. Okay, and then roll for the next guy. Not looking good for these Russians. Thought they were going to get in. So that's a 12. They are going to casualty reduce and break. And let's see, their morale's 9. Die roll is actually a 13 with the +1 MC. So they're also going to casualty reduce in quality, and break. That'll be a first line 227. And no need to mark them with human wave. They're all broken. So I guess that was a good risk. Otherwise, it would have been overrun. Okay, you know, I'm not marking my final protective fire and my final subsequent first fire residual firepower. So I guess the best attack I did was a 4. It gets cut down to a 2. Okay, that was the second impulse. Now for the third impulse. So they spent 4 movement factors so far. They still have 4 left. I don't think they're going to need it though, but looks like, yeah, so veterans probably are laughing because basically the entire force, except for this one stack and this guy, are sitting in the street broken. But, oh well, it's worth it just to try it out. So this guy is going to move. He needs to move 1 closer to our path. Let's see, so he's 2 away. So I don't want him to move into close combat, so he's allowed to bypass that. Let's see, I better just double check this hex grain rule. Okay, the rule just says he can't increase his range away from that path as long as he has this marker. So the path is like this, so he is 1, 2 away. So if he moves here, he's actually back on the path, actually. So this can flip back to human wave. So he spent 2 movement points to get into the building. And that's the only guy that's going to move of the human wave, because these guys are already occupied with close combat, which I forgot to mark. So when they moved into there, I was supposed to mark them as being in close combat. So that'll be processed later. Okay, so there's an opportunity for these guys to fire though. These guys spent 2 movement points to get in here. We can still fire, so we might as well do it. So it's going to be 4 halved to 2 for subsequent first fire. Double back to 4 for point blank. Plus 3 for the stone building. -1 for them not using assault movement, but they're no longer in the open, so they don't get a second -1. So the net is +2. Okay, got a 7. 7 plus 2, no effect. Let's flip this to final fire. Now I don't think it's worth risking a final protective fire on these guys because, you know, they're not, I guess because of the stone building. It's just not going to be worth it. Okay, so that was the very first move. Most complicated move possible. All right, we'll go check out what else we can move. Okay, there's a few more moves I want to do. We have a stack of 3 first line squads here. They're 447s and a single 447 here. My thinking is I want to bring them back around here. And maybe in the advancing phase where you'll see that we can move units 1 space forward, maybe move them into firing positions there, and also they can sort of bolster these guys, maybe even try to attack across the street here. But so this guy's gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. Put him under the commissar here. Now, these units have 4 movement factors. I could have made them double time and they can get 6 movement factors, but they would become exhausted. So I'd rather not do that. But we'll probably see that maybe later in the scenario, who knows. These guys are gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. By the way, the Germans cannot see them, pretty sure, because they're moving behind these woods in this building. So we'll just kind of move them all like that. So what I want, you know, maybe we'll leave 1 behind. Yeah, he could have probably prep fired over here, but that's okay. We'll leave 1 behind. And I think that is the Russian movement phase. Let me double check to make sure I didn't remove the human wave marker too early. Well, it just says when they reach their destination, the human wave ends. You know, I still had an impulse, didn't I, on that human wave? So what am I doing here? Oh, kind of screwing up. Okay, so let's remember that I still had an impulse to go. These guys subsequent first fired on the human wave guy here. And then I moved on to other stuff, but he still had 2 movement factors left, and he has to actually move in to this enemy spot. So let's kind of rewind that, and let's say when he moved in here in this subsequent first fire failed, that this guy chose to attack as well. Okay, so we'll just say we're still in the movement phase, and the human wave still has 1 more impulse to go, but this guy, is taking his shot. So let's see what this is. This is a pretty solid stack, if I recall. Oh yeah, so there's 3 of these German 4.67s, and 2 of them are carrying light machine guns. So I could go for just as big of an attack as possible. So that would be 12 from the firepower of the troops, plus 6 for the machine guns. So that's 18, minus 2, plus 3 for the building. So that's a net plus 1, but they're also not using assault movement, so it's a net 0. Yeah, so we'll roll an 18, which the closest column is a 16. That was kind of funny. Okay, let's check this out. I rolled a 4. Well, here's the 4. It's doubles. And we'd look here, that's a good roll. 16, and yeah, we decided the net result was 0, so we're right there. But doubles means the troops are cowering. However, a leader cancels out the cowering, so we have a leader, so we're good. But if there was no leader, the cowering would cause the die roll to shift down 1 column, and so it would go from a K3 to a 3MC. But we're going to do a K3. There's nothing to randomly select, so we'll go ahead and swap this guy out for a half squad. And then he has to make a morale check with a plus 3. Got a 7. 7 is 10. His morale is 9. He breaks. Ah, man. I was hoping that human wave would go a little better. Almost no one made it. Okay. So sorry for the little screw up, but now the human wave is over. These guys are marked first fire. They're gonna, do they want to choose to subsequent first fire? You know, I think they should. They're just gonna subsequent first fire on that demoralized unit. Now the reason I would do this is because once the movement phase ends, first firing German units will be able to fire again, but only against adjacent units. So here's my chance to fire at a non-adjacent unit. I can't fire these guys over here because they're not moving. So we'll just go ahead and roll again. Rolled a 6. That will activate the Russian sniper, but a 6 on the 16 is 2 MC. Okay, this guy's morale 7. Rolled an 11. That goes up to a 13. Since it is a broken squad, broken squads that fail a morale check take a loss, and he is already a half squad. Destroyed. Okay, so that was a good choice there. This guy converts to final fire. So let's process the sniper. Gonna roll, see if we can get a 1 or a 2. Got a 2. We're gonna roll for direction and distance. Red will be distance. So direction is 4, that's this way. Distance is 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then there's no target there, so this is very thematic. Then he has to target the closest location, which is this one. So the guys that were firing caused the sniper attack, which makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, so the sniper is going to randomly select a unit in this stack. Let's see what we got here. Okay, got these 3 squads. I'm just gonna roll 4 dice. We're looking for whoever's the highest number is gonna get hit. If the highest number is a tie, there'll be multiples. And I'm just gonna look at the dice as they get rolled, and the leftmost one will be for the leftmost guy, and so on. Okay, so we got a 6. Yeah, that's the highest die roll, so I don't even need to go through the others. So, hit the leader. So he takes a wound marker. When wounded, his morale level is reduced by 1, so he's an 8. And his leadership level goes up by 1, so he's a -1. So that was pretty effective sniper attack there. Just gonna get this big stack back together. And, you know, I'm just gonna put the sniper underneath there. Okay. Human waves ended, movements ended. That was a last act of the movement phase. So, starting finally, after all that's cleaned up, the defensive fire phase. Any units eligible to fire on the German side, the defender side, may fire. At full firepower, if they're not marked with a first fire. If they're marked with first fire, they fire at half firepower, but only against adjacent units. So there's no situation for that. So I just want to be looking at these guys that haven't fired yet. Well, these guys over here might as well fire away at these Russians in the buildings on this side. Okay, I think maybe we'll have this guy here for attack across here. He's on the ground level, so he might as well shoot at the guy that's also on the ground level over here. He is marked with a prep fire marker. I just was lazy and didn't put it underneath the first floor marker. So we got 4 attacking over there with a +3 defensive modifier. Got a 6. Let's see what that is. I think that's going to be a fail. Yes, fail. Okay, so he goes straight to final fire. Okay, then this guy, he is a medium machine gun, a leader manning a medium machine gun. I'm not even sure if he could do that. Okay, he can, but it's going to be at half firepower because it requires more than one guy to operate. And he can't use his leadership modifier because he can't direct himself. So that'll be at 2.5 firepower. Firing at the guy on the top floor here. So that'll be a 2 +3. Rolled a 10. So that's a total miss. Rate of fire is not retained, so throw a final fire. These are just like long shots. I guess one reason I might not want to be taking these long shots is that they could activate the Russian sniper. So maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but now the guy on the bottom floor here, just trust me, there's a guy under there, is going to fire group with this guy. So that'll be 8 +3 for the light machine gun. We'll shoot at the guy on the ground floor over on the right here. So we're looking at 11 +3. Rolled a 10 on the, yeah, that's just total miss. Okay, so we can assume both guys on the ground floor are final fire. Now, not so sure about this. We got a squad, a leader, and a heavy machine gun back here. It's in range. Do they have line of sight? I don't know. We're gonna go for it. Let's try it out. So I am looking from top down. So from your angle, you might not be able to see. So looks pretty close on camera. It's not quite. I think the shadow is exactly what I can see from top down. So the shadow and the line do not clip that building in the middle there. It's very, very close. But to know if the line of sight is blocked by the building, I would have to see a little bit of the building on the other side of the line. And I definitely see some green on the left side. So it's got a clear line of sight. So they might as well fire at the ground floor guy. So what do we got here? We have a 4. We have 7. So that's 11. With a -1, but +3 for the building. So +2. Okay, got a 6. That's going to activate the sniper. 11 drops to the 8 column. Got a 6. And I think I said +2. That's a normal morale check. So no die roll modifier, but there's going to be a morale check on this guy on the first floor. He's got a 7. Also, let's remember a red 2. In fact, I'll put the red 2 over here. And just put a green 2 there, just so I remember this is the rate of fire check. And then there's going to be a sniper check. So, well, I need 2 dice, so whatever. We had a 6. So, normal morale check, 7. Got exactly a 7. So, lucked out because they're not breaking. So they're pinned though. So their firepower is halved. Not that it matters. They can't move or advance. Probably not going to matter. Let's see if we can put this back together. Okay. Let's finish processing this. So rate of fire is 3 on this. So it's 50% chance it'll be able to keep firing, which it did. So the squad is first fire. Machine gun can still fire though. Okay, let's process the sniper. Gonna roll a 1 or a 2. Rolled a 2. Wow, sniper is pretty active. Roll for direction and distance. Red will be distance. Okay, so dig the sniper out of here. Direction is 4, distance 1. Okay, so it moves off of there and has to go to the closest spot, so it moves right back. Okay, you know what's going to happen here. There's going to be a random check here. So leftmost die is going to be the leader. Second leftmost will be that guy. If there's one clear winner, there is. It's the rightmost guy. Got a 6. So he is pinned because the sniper roll was a 2. If it was a 1, I believe he would break. So he's pinned. Okay, could be worse. Quite a big stack. Okay. Machine gun retained its rate of fire. Let's fire it again. Now, just because the squad is marked first fire, it doesn't mean like only the leader can operate the machine gun. It's still operating. The squad's still operating the machine gun. Okay, so we are firing at full firepower because it didn't technically first fire yet. It's still firing away. So that is a 7 with a -1 but +2 for the building. It's going against that pinned guy on the ground floor. Almost a disaster there. Okay, roll the 7. That's probably not going to do anything for us. 7 + 2, yeah, that's not it. And the red die is a 6, so lost rate of fire. Okay. That goes straight to final fire. Because there's nothing they can fire at anyway. Okay, I think there's one more firing opportunity. I think this squad, with its light machine gun, could fire over there or over there. I think he's going to fire at this squad leader and machine gun. So he is a 7. It's going to be a +3. Rolled a 6, activating the sniper. 7 goes to the 6 column. I rolled a 6. It's a +3 miss. So maybe this means I shouldn't be taking these little like low odds shots. Sniper direction is going to be white. Wait, before I even look at that, I need to see if I get a 1 or 2. Got another 2. So here's the sniper roll. So direction's going to be 4. It's probably going to be the exact same thing. Yep, it's going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay. So who is closer? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay. It's just going right back. All right. Well, we've done this before. Sniper's just got a bead on these guys. Okay, rolling 4 dice. Leftmost going to be the leader. Leftmost is a 5. That is the leader. He's wounded again. Gonna roll a die. It's +1 because he's already wounded. 5 or 6, he's dead. I rolled a 6, so it goes to 7. So he's been killed. Wow, pretty effective sniper. And since he's killed, his squad's gonna become demoralized. They have to take a morale check, all of them, for their leader being lost. So in addition to them having to take a normal morale check, we're supposed to add the leader's morale to the die roll. Or, sorry, the leader's leadership modifier, but flip the sign. So he was wounded, so at a -1 instead of -2. So we can switch that -1 to a +1. So the die roll is going to be +1. We'll go first, second, and third. Got a 10. +1 is 11. They break because of their leader loss from the sniper attack. The experience level rating of the German forces is 4, so that's exactly the difference, 7 to 11, so they don't degrade. Okay, so I'm going in this direction, so these guys are actually in charge of this machine gun as well. So that machine gun's out of action unless someone tries to grab it from him. Next guy. Got a 9, +1 is 10, same thing. Third guy that happens to be pinned. Got a 4. He's good. So still pinned. Sniper still got his eye on him. I guess we should throw these desperate guys underneath. Okay, so that was cool. Sniper just took notice of those guys when they're firing on his buddies. Took several shots, 3 shots at him. Finally killed the leader, caused the men to panic. Pretty thematic there. So these guys would get a final fire. And that ends the defensive fire phase. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up by removing all those final fire markers. I think I also was supposed to remove all these residual fire markers at the end of the movement phase because they're just not useful anymore. So I'll do that real quick. Okay, done that. You can really see how horrible that human wave was. There's just stacks of Russians out here in the street, all demoralized. So now we go into the advancing fire phase. That's where the attacker can fire any units that are not marked with prep fire and that are not broken at half firepower. So all these guys have fired, but these guys are out, can't really see anyone. This guy I can see over here. Might as well do it. The German sniper's pinned. So his half firepower is 2. It's going to be a +3. Rolled an 8. That's not doing anything. Okay, I think that's it. I was actually hoping there'd be a lot of Russians inside this building ready to just fire away, but they are hurting. That's the end of the phase. All right, now it's the rout phase. So that's where broken units meeting certain conditions have to run away from the enemy. And they could have the option to run away even if they don't have to. Basically, if you have a desperation morale marker on your unit, it is capable of running away. So let's cruise in. We have to do the attackers first. Just gonna cruise in down here. So there's a lot of rules for routing, but one of the basics is if you're next to an enemy unit, you must rout. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going also have the option of just routing anyone with a DM. So I think what I want to do is route them. What that means is they get 6 movement points, and they have to move if you're going to route them. And they have to move towards the nearest building or woods. Once they're in one, they can they can move through other buildings and woods, but they can't go back out in the open. And if they're equidistant buildings or woods, they choose whatever they want. But they cannot move closer to a known enemy unit. And by known enemy unit, that's from their perspective. So if you see a unit on the board and they're moving towards it, but they can't see it, that's still legal. So let's go ahead and route these guys. I'll start with this guy first. So he's going to go 1, 2, and you can't shoot at them. Now, at some point, these desperation morale markers will come off. I think it's in the rally phase of the next turn. They can be added back if these guys get shot at again. So I want to put these guys somewhere safe, but I don't really see a safe spot. So yeah, I think maybe he'll move like this way instead. And then once you're in a safe terrain, you can keep moving as long as you stay within buildings or woods. So he's going to move over here. The idea is hoping this close combat will clear those guys out, and these guys will be out of sight of any Germans. I don't know, these guys can see him probably, but we'll just do that. These 2 guys will join their buddy. So they'll route to here. Okay. All these guys will just route as a stack of 3. 1, 2. Oh, I didn't even notice there's a nice little hiding spot here. 3, 4. Surrounded by buildings and stuff. Okay, and then this stack. These are the closest locations. I'm just trying to see, like, is there one that's closer to a known enemy unit? Not really. So I think we'll go 1, 2, and then maybe like get back here, 3, 4. That's just horrible. All those guys out of the battle. So yeah, they're running away to hide. Okay, any other attackers routed or broken? I don't think so. Okay, so now the defenders. Now this guy here, he is perfectly fine just to stay where he is. He's not next to an enemy unit. But I think I want him to route to underneath this leader so that he can be rallied later. Basically, most units require a leader to be rallied. So he'll just move under the leader. Making a juicy target at the same time, I guess. Did we have someone down in here? I think we did. Okay, so this guy. Yeah. Like, what's the best choice here? I want that machine gun manned. So one thing you can do is you can have someone route. So I can have this guy route away from the enemy because he would go downstairs. That's where the stairs are. Yeah, there's stairs here. Go downstairs and then come back to the back of this building to try to stay out of sight so he can try to be rallied. But he doesn't have a leader to rally him. Maybe this leader will come over and do that. So, but I could voluntarily route a leader with him, and the leader can join him. But then this machine gun would just be sitting here on the first floor, totally unmanned. So, I think we'll keep the leader there with him, with the machine gun. And he'll just go hide back here. Yeah, but there's a leader nearby that can come up and try to rally him. Okay. Then these guys in here. This is just bad. I think they're taking all their machine guns with them. They're going to run back to these woods and hide. So, not much I can do there. There's no leader, so, and they can't like run across these streets or whatever. So, maybe this guy is going to have some work over several turns trying to rally those guys back. Okay, I think that's the entire route phase. Yes, so I should have removed all the prep fire counters after the advancing fire phase. So just did that. Okay, so any one of the attackers that isn't just running away can advance one space. So I think, so these guys are all good. I think these guys will go advance over to here, advance over to here. Maybe he'll come down here. No, he's in a stone building. We'll keep him, no, bring him here so we can have like a fire group. This guy, maybe he'll advance in with this ground floor guy. Trying to get ready for the next attack. This is a commissar. He's kind of like a leader. And you keep him there in case these guys break. They can run back to him. There's no one really else left to advance. I don't want to advance this guy. He'd be advancing into a street. So I think that is the advance phase. Okay, now it's the close combat phase. We only have one close combat situation. So let's check out what's going on. Okay. Got these guys, these Russians here. Oop, should I remove that? And these Germans. And the Germans are actually in good order. So when close combat is created by the attacker entering a building or woods, which the Russians did, they ran across the street, entered the building, we have to roll to see if there's an ambush. Either party could ambush the other. I'm going to roll a white die for the Germans and a red die for the Russians. There's going to be some modifiers. Basically, leadership, the best leadership of the bunch in each group. Well, the Soviets would be -2, Germans -1. You subtract that from your die roll. And then there's a bunch of other modifiers, but the only one applicable here is +1 for the Soviets because they're lax. Lax meaning they are not paying attention to their stealthiness, I guess. And that's a negative effect of being in a human wave. One of the things, I forgot to mention that when starting the human wave. So they're lax, so they get a +1. So let's go ahead and roll. Okay, so the Germans have 5, -1 is 4. And then the Soviets have -2 for their leader, +1 for being lax, so that would be a 0. So what an ambush does is it gives the ambusher, the Soviets in this case, a -1 to their close combat attacks and a +1 when attacked. The opponent gets +1. Also, normally close combat attacks occur simultaneously, so both sides would roll their dice, and even if one side's wiped out, they can still inflict damage on the other side. Well, not in the case of an ambush. The ambusher gets to go first, so that's a major advantage. So now we need to decide the disposition of leaders. So both sides decide that. They can fight in close combat alone or group up. Basically, we're going to take these units and group them. Just imagine they're all inside this building, and some are in some room, some are in the other. So let's just say if the leader fights alone, he's almost certainly dead. So this leader's going to join up with this guy, and I guess this leader will join up with this guy. Okay, and then the Soviets decide how they want to attack. Well, if there are multiple German groups, they could like split their guys up and attack, have one guy attack one of each group, or they can have all their guys attack only one group. But since there's only one group here, they'll just go ahead and make one giant attack. So these guys are all attacking as a group. These guys, they could decide to any combo they want here. They can, now the leaders are sort of connected to a unit, but they could choose to attack just this guy. They could choose to combine them into a group and attack both, or they can just attack this guy. It's going to be a force ratio, so I think, probably the best choice is the Germans will attack this guy. Okay, so all these guys, we'll roll for the Russians first. They're going to attack that German group. Okay, so we're going to compute odds. Leaders just count as they count as one firepower point when in close combat. Outside of close combat, they don't count as any. So this will be for the attacker. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13 against 5. So we're going to look up a ratio. We'll get the chart here. Here's the close combat table, and 13 to 5. 15 to 5 would be 3 to 1 odds. So we're looking at the odds ratio. But it's not quite 15 to 5, so we slide down to 2 to 1 odds. That's what we're going to be rolling at for the Soviets. Okay, and we are rolling for this. We want to try to get this number or less. Okay, we rolled that number. Plus, they have an ambush. So that will be -1, which is a 6. So that means these guys are dead. And since it was an ambush, they have no recourse. If it wasn't an ambush, they would still get to fight back. And they would have fought at 5 to 6 odds, which would have been 1 to 2 on the chart. They'd have to roll a 4 or less. They would have had a -1 for their leader, +1 for being ambushed. So just for fun, I'm going to roll. Yeah, so they got a 9, -1 plus 1, 9. So yeah, they would have been wiped out with no recourse. Okay, so these guys successfully got into the building and just wiped out the defenders there. So the close combat marker comes off. That is the end of the close combat phase. One thing, this phase, its color is white with red text. And so that's a hint that we take off any white with red text markers. So all these guys that are pinned are not pinned. This sniper is no longer pinned. I feel like there's some pinned guys buried around here, so I'll go dig them out if there are any. And that ends the Soviet player turn, and now we're going to go to the German player turn. Oh, one thing. Those Germans had a light machine gun with them. They can't use support weapons in close combat. But these weapons can be destroyed from the close combat. Basically, a natural die roll of 1 on the red die, the colored die, would destroy this, but it wasn't. So this light machine gun should be just sitting on the ground in this location. So this, theoretically, the Soviets could pick it up if they wanted to try to figure out how to use it. Also, this is a really long first turn video, so I'm going to cut it off here, and next episode will be the German player turn for turn 1. Catch you later.